Hello and welcome back everybody. So since we are reaching the very end of the Culture Festival arc of the manga of My Hero Academia, I thought I'd make a video on, my prediction for the next arc, because, I haven't done any predictions as of late and I really like making them. So I figured, I'll make a prediction now, because why the hell not? But I don't really want to make chapter predictions. I felt like I'd keep to arc predictions rather than chapter predictions, unless, the demand is high enough in the comments or whatever. But for now, I'm gonna stick to arc predictions whenever, an arc finishes, and I'll just make my own prediction on what I think the next arc might be. So let's just get right into the video. So in the recent arcs of My Hero Academia, Culture Festival, then we had the remedial course and the very end of the internship arc where Overhaul was the antagonist. We got some really interesting information that may actually lead into what the next arc is gonna be about, and so I thought I'd kind of use that as my prediction, because at first, before the remedial course, I believe it was, or maybe during the remedial course, I don't quite remember exactly now, but we got to see more of Gigantomachia, the massive villain looking thing, the guy who Gran Torino and some other people ran into in a forest when they were apprehending Kurogiri. I mean, they did manage to apprehend Kurogiri, but Gigantomachia is still out there, he's still on foot, and obviously they could not stop him because he was just too much of a threat, too dangerous. They had to retreat, but at least they managed to get Kurogiri. So I figured I'd use Gigantomachia as some sort of foreshadowing for my prediction, because I think he was shown because he's going to, at some point, maybe very soon, become a relevant villain of the story. I believe he's gonna play a part rather soon, especially since we got to see him again in Kirishima's flashback for the first time after his original appearance during the internship arc, where we saw, obviously Kirishima and Mina's shared backstory. We had him be in there, although he wasn't named. We can pretty much confirm that was indeed him. And then again, as I said, like the whole thing with Gran Torino. So he's done some recent appearances, even if one of them was during a flashback from before Kirishima and Mina joined UA. The other thing that I really want to use as foreshadowing now, and this is going to lead into exactly what my prediction is going to be about, is the remedial course arc. Because as we know, Bakugo Todoroki, as well as some of the Shiketsu High, Inasa and Kami primarily, they were part of the remedial course arc, which is what they had to go through because originally they did not pass the provisional hero license exam. And I kind of want to mention that because of the fact that we got to see so much of them before the Culture Festival, which was like the next big arc, if you want to call it that, although not very long. It was the next primary arc, I guess you could say. I feel like having the remedial course being shown to such extent, it just kind of feels like it's gonna be important, at least the characters that were involved in said arc. So I think the next arc is definitely going to be about Bakugo. I think it's gonna be about Todoroki, maybe even Anase and Kami, seeing as they were shown. And what's interesting about that is that we got to see how they had to try a new approach. They had to try and interact with children, something that they didn't really seem very familiar with, at least not in the way that they had to do it in that arc. So I think the next arc actually might have to do with those four actually doing something, and they may have to rethink back to what happened during the remedial course, like how did he handle the situation then. But at the same time, this is gonna be a far more dangerous situation because things may actually be at stake whatever happens in this upcoming arc. And maybe the villain of that arc is actually gonna be Gigantomachia. Not only, I don't think they're gonna like beat Gigantomachia. I really don't see that happening, because at the end of the day, they're just students, and Gran Torino couldn't even do anything against him. And we saw the destruction that was made by Gigantomachia. This guy is a monster. You do not want to get on his bad side. I don't think anyone would want to do that, especially not for students. But I think he may play a role of some kind. I think someone else is gonna be like the main villain of the arc though. Hopefully someone that hasn't had as much screen time as maybe Toga and Twice, because Toga and Twice has had some more screen time than some of the other villains of the league. Like during the whole Overhaul raid, we obviously had Toga and Twice being part of it, which is why we know a lot more about them than we maybe do about Dobby or maybe Spinner, Mr. Compress. So it would be interesting to see like one of those villains maybe being part of the next arc, and I would really like to see some more progression on, especially on Todoroki's end, but also I would like to see some progression on Bakugo's end, because while Bakugo has development, he has progression. We all love Bakugo, and some of us actually love Todoroki, right? So we want to see them, yes, progress to a new level. We want to see them become as progressive as Deku as far as the story goes. But then the question comes, is Deku gonna be part of the next arc as well? Because he's the main character, and I think so, because the way Horikoshi has been writing things so far at least, Deku seems to be very centered in every single arc. I believe Deku is gonna be part of it, but I do still hope that Bakugo, Todoroki, maybe Inase and Kami as well, will play a really big role. I hope they are kind of at the center of things, either as much as Deku or even more so. Like, even if Deku is part of the arc, that doesn't necessarily have to mean that he's gonna be like the main event every single arc. A good example of that would kind of be the sports festival, because Deku didn't win the festival or anything, you know, he wasn't at the center of attention, to be honest. In fact, the characters at the center of attention in that arc was more towards Todoroki and Bakugo, so I'd like to see something similar, except I want to see their characters develop in a far different way. I want to see something new. I want to see something that will surprise me, to be honest. Like, I don't want to be able to fully predict what's gonna happen, which is, to some extent, I hope this prediction isn't 100% spot on, because then that's just gonna go against what I just said. I do want to be completely surprised as to what's gonna happen, but at the same time, I do want these characters to be completely centered in whatever arc the next one is going to be. I mean, obviously, we don't really know when the next arc's fully gonna be starting. Like, it might not start the next chapter, it could do, but it doesn't have to. And I would really like if the build up to the next arc is done properly, so I don't really want to rush into the next arc necessarily if it's not the right approach, you know, depending on what it is. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. I just wanted to give my thoughts on what I think the next arc of My Hero Academia might be, and I think a lot of people want to see these characters grow, especially since we did see them in the remedial course. It feels kind of like pointless having that remedial course, especially with Inase and Kami, if they're not really going to be important, you know, in an upcoming arc, right? Like, I want to see more of these characters, and I think a lot of people will agree with me when I say that. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below, and as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to see more My Hero Academia content. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everyone, Toga is waifu, Toga is laifu.